guys, it's Glenn from glenscarcollection.com, and today we're reviewing one of my favorite cars, the 2023 BMW M2. If you follow the channel, you just know we just reviewed an M2, but it was an automatic with sports seats. Look, this is carbon fiber buckets, and what else does it have? A 6-speed manual. This is Zandvoort Blue Metallic, and the M2s, all M2s, have a detuned S58 engine from the new M3 and M4. If you follow the channel, you know that my YouTube channel began with my Long Beach Blue 2016 M2 with a 6-speed manual. Now, we can compare this car to it and watch this video to the end. We're going to go over all the options, take a look at the interior, take it for a spirited drive, and at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you what I prefer, the M2 with the manual transmission or the automatic, and if I prefer the sports seats or the carbon fiber buckets. So now we have Michelin 4S tires, which are the best tires. I have them on my S2000. You got 20s in the rear, 19s in front. Now, did I mention that this car has carbon fiber buckets and a 6-speed manual? Can't wait to try those out. Now, this is all part of the carbon package. And what that gives you is a carbon roof, the carbon fiber buckets. It gives you carbon fiber trim and the M driver's package for a total of $9,900. All totaled with a couple of miscellaneous options like the Live Cockpit Pro for $1,100, 50-year BMW emblems for $200, lighting package which gives you the full LED lights for $650, and the Shadowline package with the exhaust tips in black and Shadowline lights for $300. This base price of $62,200 jumps all the way to, with destination charge of $995, to $75,345. Now, the 6-speed manual is a no-cost option, and so is the 8-speed torque converter automatic. Now, it only comes in 5 colors. There's Zandvoort Blue, Black Sapphire, Alpine White, which were available on the M2 and the M2 competition, Toronto Red, and Brooklyn Gray. Here's a good look at that S58 engine. It produces 453 horsepower, 406 foot-pounds of torque. So the M3, M4 competition, this engine would produce 503 horsepower. So only 50 horsepower less than the new M3, M4. Now, weighs about almost as much. This is just over 3,800 pounds, which is about 250 pounds more than my 2016 M2. Yes, I feel like I've come full circle here. My channel started with my 2016 Long Beach Blue manual transmission car, and now we can see how much faster the new car is. The automatic 8-speed torque converter, not dual clutch torque converter, does the 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. BMW says that manual will be about 4.1 seconds. We're going to go over the interior and then take it for a spirited drive, and at the end of the video, I'm going to tell you whether I prefer the 6-speed manual or the automatic. All right, so now we're inside the M2. Now, as soon as you unlock the door, this screen comes up, and we're going to put our foot down. This is a manual transmission car, so I'm going to have my foot on the clutch and start her up. Got a deep rumble. Sounds really good for a 6-cylinder turbo. Now, it even tells us there's only one person in the car. As you see, the other 3 spots are empty. Back seats are kind of tight. You probably have to be a toddler or a short adult. My kids are tall. They don't want to sit back there. Though when they were younger, they did sit back in my 2016 M2, and they loved going for rides in that car. So now we've taken away buttons here. I think I showed you, we already did an M2 automatic video. What they're trying to do here is get rid of so many buttons. So you do have redundant controls here. You do have, just like my M340 had, the start button here. The M2 start button in my 2016, I believe, was over here. And so you do have some redundant controls here, and then you can kind of play with traction control. So the climate control menu is here. So the good news is you could just press from wherever menu you're at, like say you went into music, satellite radio, you got to go to home button. It doesn't kind of leave the screen over, so you just got to always remember to do that. Say you want to go into navigation, now you got to go to home button to go back. These are some other options. They have some really cool options here. So obviously you have all your usual stuff, but you can get vehicle to status and different displays on the car with the heads-up display. The heads-up display is always too low for me because I was always taught in racing school to look as far as you could ahead. So what we want to do is we want to adjust this. Climate control, no matter what menu you're in, and you could scroll through the menu here, and this is all new for 2023, my 2020 BMW M3 M340 did not have that. But you can always go to climate and get back in there, and then you can do automatic. You can do air recirculation. We just had those Canadian forest fires here where we couldn't breathe yesterday. So you can have the air circulation. You can make it automatic when it needs to, or constant. Again, we can go back to the home menu. So you do have to play around. Having this for a day, I really learned the car more than I knew yesterday. You can scroll through here. You can get the weather. You can get your BMW, traffic conditions, route preview. So now we can, tire pressures, engine, so we can see the gauges for the engine. And then we can play around. So this is normal for the car, efficient, comfort, gear shift assistant on. That is gear shift assistant on. That is the rev matching. So what we can do is program. Say we wanted, we can put an M1, and this is the M1 button, currently saved. Sport, rev matching on, chassis and sport, steering and comfort, braking comfort. Now if I press this M2 button here, we got a little more sport steering and sport brake and sport plus chassis, and then sport plus engine, and then M1. Now you can configure this all you want. I could, press comfort for all of them and just hit down M2. So M1 is kind of like sport, M2 is aggressive. You hear the sound difference. M1, this is sport engine. Listen carefully. I'm going to do M2. You see how it got deeper and louder? Not a huge amount. And then you can play around with the F. You got to take DSC off. And if we went to MDM mode, or we can do DSC off, then we can play with the traction control. And then we can put it, BMW engineers recommend between 3 and 4, because less than that, you're fight to get the power down. And obviously if you went to 10, it's more intrusive. This is not my car. This is a press car actually from BMW. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it on. All right. Yeah, because they loaned me the car. I want them to loan me again. The great news is if you're used to the iDrives that I was used to, my 2016 M2 or my 2020 M340, you have redundant controls here. So you can just keep going into home and go through everything. There's some pretty cool apps. Again, if we can get to that page with the apps, we just have to scroll over. And, spending more time with this, you can even do widgets if you want to have shortcuts. Tire pressures, we have Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, which I love. I have them on my S2000, and I would definitely put them on this car if I owned it, or if I still had my M2, I would do that as well. There's even an app here that you can program when you get to a certain point. Say you go to the McDonald's drive-in or picking your kids up in the school line, where it actually would roll the windows down for you automatically. Now that would freak me out because I would forget that I did that. You have the $800, so they have the $9,900 option, which gives you the carbon buckets that we're in now. It also gives you the carbon fiber here and the roof. There's their standalone options. I think it's about $800 for this interior carbon fiber, which I think is well worth it in all these places. $2,800 or $2,600, I think, for the carbon fiber roof, which is well worth it. I would take that 100%. I would take the Harman Kardon stereo. I would take this color, actually. And we're going to drive this video. I did a full driving video on this car last night, so you'll have kind of like a night drive, sunset, summer drive. And I'm going to drive it again now with the manual, and I'm going to let you know at the end of this video whether I prefer the automatic that I reviewed a couple weeks ago or the manual, because the automatic is fresh in my head. You have some nice touches here with the M colors, makes this thing seem like a sports car. Everything here is kind of soft to the touch, which I really like. So you feel that you're in a car that would be that $65,000, $75,000 price range. I think this car with that $9,900 carbon pack came out to about $75,000, and I think the base price is obviously less than that. You can figure it how you want it. You have a USB-C here. I used to always keep a wire plugged in here because I didn't want water from my water bottle to fall in there. So this is probably as big as bottle you can fit in there. Regular bottled water fits just fine. We have rev matching on, but the good news is, as we went into that chassis control, is you can easily shut it off. And there's different ways to get to this menu too. So if you weren't versed in doing all this, so it would just be gear shift assistant, you would press off and then you wouldn't have to rev match. That's one big advantage besides the power of this car, is that you can turn it off with ease, where the other one you had to go through everything and pretty much turn everything off to rev match yourself. I would definitely get the carbon fiber roof over the sunroof. Now this car is the right size, so the parking brake's in the middle. So my old M2, if I remember correctly, had a manual parking brake, and I'm sure other states are like this too, but in New Jersey, if your kids get older and have to drive, they only can take their test, doesn't have to be a stick shift obviously, with a car with a manual parking brake in the middle. If not, you have to rent a car for the safety of the motor vehicles officer next to you. They have to be able to grab a parking brake. All right, so Now, the cool thing about this is actually for a manual transmission, I think the last generation M3 had this, is obviously you'll actually see your gear for a manual transmission, not just a dual clutch or an automatic, and it actually tells you when to upshift. Now, if we go into sport mode, go back and forth, you see how the gauges change. Before you had 2 gauges for speed and tachometer, and now we're going to press it again, and then we can press sport on here, and you'll see it change. And that's the way I think we should drive it. I think we'll drive it in sport mode here. And let's see, I think we got to put our traction control on, DSC on. Yep. All right. Now, my 2016 M2 only had 365 horsepower. This has about 80, 90 horsepower more. 453, only 50 less than the new M3, M4. Even though they weigh almost the same. This is slightly lighter than that car, maybe 100 pounds or so. All right, so we're gonna set off in the M2 in sport mode, and even at street legal speeds, this car sounds really good. I'm sure it's enhanced the sound, but who cares, because it does sound really good. Now we could press our M1 button here, and now we're gonna be in the sport mode for the engine as well. Chassis still in comfort. Now what we can do here again is press the M2 button with our presets. It'll now give us the sport steering wheel, sport brakes, so a little like harder pushing on the brake, and suspension all the way stiffed up into Sport Plus. Now I do notice a difference in the suspension. This car has the carbon fiber buckets, and I'll tell you, the first drive I did with this car, I'm like, these are amazing, everybody should get this, why aren't these offered in every car? The second drive, I'm like, you know, they're kind of tight, and by the third drive, my ribs are sore. Now I'm, you know, for 6 feet tall, I'm 180 pounds, so I'm on the thinner side. If you're 25 years old, you may be 150 pounds, so you can do it no problem, but I'm probably the limit as far as width and girth for these seats. Anything more would be uncomfortable. I think I could live with these seats, and if I was just doing Sunday morning drives with my friend or track days or autocross, I would definitely get these seats. I think, you know, if BMW stops making manual transmissions and this becomes a collectible car 20 years from now, the spec with the most collectability, of course, will be a manual transmission with carbon fiber buckets. But if I wanted to drive this car anytime I wanted, and I wanted, you know, my kids in here, my significant other in here, then I would probably, and I was using it as a daily driver, sitting in traffic, going to the store. Because really, once you're in here, it's comfortable, except it's tight on your ribs, but you have to get over this protrusion here on the seat, which I think A, would wear away pretty quickly if you're wearing a seat or jeans, and you would get it all scratched up. And it's difficult to do. That's the hardest part, getting in and out of this seat. So the long story, if I was going to drive this car all the time, I would get the sport seat. The sport seats are very comfortable. They look really cool with the M colors. You can even get like a brownish interior. I think it's called like cognac or something. I would describe it as a beige or brownish color. With certain colors look really good. I would go with the black with these sport seats. Now we got the rev matching on, so if we go down to third gear, we're in our pre-saved M1, which in this case, sport engine, but comfort chassis. So that's the difference again from this M2 to the last M2, is there's another rev match, downshift. It rev matches really well. Difference between this and the other car, the other M2 had a fixed suspension, my 2016 M2, where this has a adjustable suspension. Now going through turns, it really hides that 3,800 pounds. This has way more performance than my 2016 M2. I like the handling of my 2016 M2 because it was a little bit edgy, and that's what I think made it fun. This car has a longer wheelbase. You have 19-inch wheels in the front, 20s in the back, and it's just, it's more stable, so it could really out-handle. I'm sure on the track this would blow away the original M2 between the horsepower and the chassis settings. So this car is definitely more electronic, but I love that they made the car playful. It is so much more nimble than the M4 manual that I reviewed. And I drove an M3 X-Drive, and you definitely notice the difference with the all-wheel drive and the 503 horsepower compared to the rear drive manual M3s and M4s. This car feels 90% as fast, because obviously the all-wheel drive is going to give you an incredible, whatever it is, 3.3 seconds 0 to 60 time. This, with the automatic that we drove a couple weeks ago, 3.9 seconds to 60. With this manual transmission, about 4.1. They actually feel faster once the turbo spools up and gets going here. Sport mode is definitely the way to drive this car. Now, the shifter falls right in the hand. I put my hand down just looking out the window. It's in the exact perfect spot I would want it to be. The shifter itself is a little rubbery. It's not the best. And I really don't like the clutch. The clutch is really light and doesn't have any feel. So I think it would be good as a daily driver, but driving it around last night, there's like no feel to it. Yeah, it's easy to use it, but it's like you want to know like where it catches and have some feel to it. Now the automatic is definitely faster. They say it's only 0.2 of a difference. To me, the automatic felt a lot faster from the seat of the pants. The stick shift, I've owned over 100 stick shift cars, so I'm Mr. Stick Shift. When my M340i lease was coming up, don't run it, it'll be the second landscaper to run a stop sign today. When my M340i lease was coming up, I told BMW Tenafly be out on lookout for any M3X drives that fall through or any M2s. Now, really for my daily driver to run my commercial real estate business, I need a four-door luxury car that's all-wheel drive, because I got to be everywhere and anywhere, and I need big backseat legroom, because when you're chauffeuring around CFOs, CEOs, they're usually tall. So the M2 wouldn't do this, but I still love the concept of the M2 and love my 2016 M2 so much, I told them to be on the lookout. Now, one came in this color, but it was automatic and it had a sunroof too. I would definitely want the carbon fiber roof. And I had never driven an M2 because obviously they were just coming out. And this was back in April or something. And I said, no, I don't want an automatic M2. I'm a stick shift manual guy. I could never get the automatic version if I knew a manual was available. Like the Panamera only comes in PDK. So I can't say I missed the manual, because in the United States, they don't make one in manual. But for an M2, M3, 911, if they make two transmissions, I'm always taking the manual one. So after driving the automatic, I liked it so much, I really regretted I should have taken that car. I don't know if I would have wanted the sunroof. I think I would have wanted to wait for the carbon fiber roof, because I like it so much better. I never use the sunroof on any of my cars that have them. But that automatic was really good. So here's the dilemma now. And I have a full driving review of this M2. So subscribe, hit that notification button. You'll see us driving it for 20 minutes on some different back roads. Today's video, I have to give this back in about 30 minutes. So I'm probably gonna have to video here. So here's the verdict. Would I take the manual or would I take the automatic? If I was only using it for Sunday morning drives or track days, even though I want to be the fastest at the track, I would take the manual, because it definitely is a more visceral and involving experience. But if I am if I'm driving it every day or 3 days a week, I think I'm taking the automatic, because I just don't think I would want to have this clutch and shifter driving every day. If I'm just driving for fun and going up, mountain roads that are isolated on a Sunday morning, I definitely want to have the shifter. I think I would be bored, honestly, with the automatic. But if I'm going to the supermarket, picking up for kids to school, sitting on Route 17 traffic, I would take the automatic, because I probably wouldn't want to deal with the clutch. It's very light, but it's very vague. I hope that makes sense. This is the first time ever in 1,000 reviews and over 100 cars of my own that I would ever pick the automatic over the manual transmission. But I wouldn't fault you for either transmission. If you got the manual tranny, I would be just as happy for you. All right, so that's the verdict. Let me know in the verdict below whether you would take automatic or manual and why. And let me know what car you want to review next once I get enough people asking for that car. So say it in every single video. I can go to that manufacturer and say, look, I have all these subscribers that want to see it, to try to grab that press car. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.